be fearful, guys.
CNN obtained this recording of a Wayne County GOP training session over Zoom the night before the Michigan primary last month.
So you're all really undercover agents. Congratulations, you just passed undercover training.
It is extra training, partisan training, not just for volunteers observing elections, but including the actual paid election workers who will check in voters, hand out ballots, even help in the counting, which is why what they are being told is alarming.
There's a lot of bad stuff that's happening in this upcoming election, so we're going to have to keep our heads on a swivel and just start documenting irregularities.
The poll workers are hired by Townsend clerks, and Wayne County's Republican chairperson Cheryl Costantino tells them they may need to break the rules to uncover fraud.
They were told by their trainers that they could not have their phones with them. So I would say maybe just hide it, and maybe hide a small pad and a small pen. You need to take accurate notes.
If we are observed with a pen and a piece of paper writing on anything, they just said they would ask us that they would remove us.
That's why you got to do it secretly.
This training for the primary was just practice for the upcoming midterms, according to Costantino. And it's not just what's being taught, it's who is doing the teaching.
We think a lot of the monkey business that's happening is happening at the vote aggregation location.
That is election denier Patrick Kolbeck, who co-led this training session. He's a former state senator who wrote a book called The 2020 Coup and has a blog filled with debunked conspiracy theories about voting machines. He spread so much disinformation about the 2020 election, he got this cease and desist letter from Dominion, the voting machine company, saying, "You are knowingly sowing discord in our democracy, all the while soliciting exorbitant amounts of money."
All right, well, first of all...
He's appeared on Steve Bannon's show and with the My Pillow guy, Mike Lindell.
We did see evidence that it was connected to the internet.
There is no evidence any voting machines were connected to the internet in the 2020 election. But Kolbeck is still asking Republican poll workers to check.
There's this little icon down the bottom right-hand corner. And what I'm trying to do is to see whether or not these machines are indeed connected to the internet.
Kolbeck refused to speak to CNN. But the other leader of the training, Cheryl Costantino, did.
You were training these people to be undercover spies. That was the words you were using, and I'm wondering why.
Well, first of all, if you remember in the election 2 years ago, there were so many problems.
With election staffing, she said, with who counted ballots. But she's an election denier, too. She filed a baseless lawsuit in Detroit alleging election fraud in 2020. It was thrown out. Why did she tell election workers to act like spies?
To kind of reframe it and make it more fun and interesting, I said, just, instead of causing a bunch of scenes and things like that, just write it down, just kind of be like spies and let me know what's going on.
While Michigan's primary election went smoothly,
I did nothing wrong.
A poll challenger affiliated with Kolbeck and his training was thrown out of Detroit's ballot counting center for repeatedly getting too close to workers.
I told them that they were breaking the law.
What's happening in Michigan is happening across the nation. Attempts are underway to make sure the ultra-MAGA run the election process, from poll workers all the way up to candidates for Secretary of State and Attorney General. Trump attorney Cleta Mitchell has led seminars in 8 swing states, all under the presumption Democrats cheat. CNN caught up with her in Wisconsin.
That we'll be able to make sure that there's another set of eyes going on, watching the ballots, watching the voting, watching the process, knowing what's going on in the election offices.
These training sessions are planned chaos. These people are being radicalized.
Jeff Timmer used to lead the Michigan Republican Party.
They think they're saving democracy from the cannibal socialists, where in fact what they're doing is eroding the public's faith in elections.
Jake, Michigan's Secretary of State says her state is ready for any issues that may arise from these partisan training sessions, and the clerks who run the elections can remove anyone violating the rules. But on a more positive note, and there is one here, those same clerks are telling me that most of the distrust of the electoral system is born of ignorance, as we've seen so many times. And when these suspicious workers actually get in there and get their feet wet and see how elections are run, according to the clerks, they generally become believers in the system. Let's hope so.
Let's hope so. Drew Griffin, thanks so much. I want to bring in the Minnesota Secretary of State, Democrat Steve Simon. Thanks so much for joining us. What's your reaction to hearing these Republican individuals suggesting that poll workers break the rules for presumably the upcoming midterm elections.
It is deeply, deeply disturbing. I think CNN's done a public service here, just warning all of us who do elections to be on the lookout for this. I have no problem with any political party or political movement organizing folks to show up to be election judges. In Minnesota, we need 30,000 people to step up and do that. But the rule is you got to leave your politics at the door. And in Minnesota and in most states, we make our election judges or poll workers literally swear an oath to be fair and impartial. If you can do that, doesn't matter what your politics are. If you can't, if you throw sand in the gears, if you interfere, if you interrupt, if you disturb, that's a problem and people can and should be removed.
And we should make it clear, there's a difference between partisan poll watchers, which Democrats and Republicans regularly engage in, and that helps build confidence in the process, and paid poll workers who are supposed to be nonpartisan while doing their jobs. So you're the top election official in Minnesota, which is regularly a battleground state. What do you see as being the long-term effect of this type of training on the ability for states to conduct fair elections? Are you concerned that the public's faith in elections is going to keep being eroded?
I am concerned that this is one example among many in the past, and unfortunately probably several in the future, where people are going to try to blur the line that you just mentioned. Poll challengers, as we call them in Minnesota, sometimes observers, hey, that's okay. In Minnesota, every party gets one, not 20, not two, one, designated in writing, to be eyes and ears of a political party. But that's a very different role than the person handing out ballots, greeting folks, making sure that they can get registered at the polls. And when you blur those lines and you tell people to go in and disrupt, and even in your clip, to break the law, that is a bridge way too far. That is against the law in Minnesota, and I suspect in most states. But it's disturbing that people would try to blur that line and send people in knowing that they will be at least attempting to break the law.
You heard Drew Griffin report that pro-Trump attorney Cleta Mitchell has led some of these MAGA election trainings in 8 different battleground states. For people who don't remember, Cleta Mitchell was one of the figures on the phone in January 2021 with your Republican counterpart in Georgia, Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, pushing Raffensperger to find, quote unquote, find enough votes for Trump to win the state, even if they didn't actually exist, those votes. So you're the vice chair of the Democratic Association of Secretaries of State. What are you specifically doing to protect the sanctity of the voting booth from the kind of interference that we keep hearing about and saw in the last election ahead of the November midterms?
Well, in Minnesota, it's about putting people on notice about just the kind of tactics you're talking about. Again, I want to make clear, any political party, political movement, absolutely. Sign people up to be election judges or poll workers. Just make sure that they uphold their oath and uphold the law. So one is just putting people on notice about that. The other, though, which you got to a couple minutes ago, is transparency and sunlight are our friend. Over time, I'm not saying in the next few weeks, but over time, we can have an impact by acquainting people with the election system as it really is, whether it's Minnesota, Michigan, or any other state. Once people are exposed to that, either as election judges or in any other capacity, they invariably come away impressed and with a ton more confidence. They see how hard it is to get away with misconduct. They see all the checks and balances. They see the layers of accountability and the guarantees of trustworthiness. That's the kind of thing we got to get out the word for going forward. So this is a long-term project. I'm discouraged by your report and what it says about organized attempts to corrode well-earned trust in the system. But I'm confident that over time, we can make sure the fever breaks if we work at it.
Plus, of course, there are these conspiracy theories about voting machines and fraud that doesn't exist. You're up for re-election this year. Your Republican opponent, he's called the 2020 election rigged. He has likened changing the rules around voting in 2020 to the September 11th terrorist attacks. How do you respond to these kinds of allegations?
Right. Well, they're foolish, they're irresponsible, and they're ultimately really dangerous. We can have all the policy differences we want. That's a good thing. We welcome that in elections in particular. But if we can't agree on the basic fundamental facts of what the system is, forget about what it ought to be, and we can have those debates, then we're in real trouble. And what we're seeing, not just from my opponent, but by others running in other states, and I'd say by national political leaders that are fanning these flames, is we're seeing an attempt to spread disinformation. You mentioned Cleta Mitchell. I'd call her a super spreader of disinformation along those lines. That's the dangerous part. People who are willingly and knowingly spreading false information about what the system is. That's the problem.